Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Grab your vices, whatever that may be, your cup, your vape, whatever it is that you're into. And let's get straight to it. This is Straightforward with Ms.B, episode 58. I hope everybody has had a wonderful past 2 weeks. As always seem to be a lot going on. There's never a dull day as we, go through our work week, or if you're in college and school or high school, taking your classes. It just seems as though a lot always be going on in the world. Not really starting off with this particular story, but unfortunately, we had a terrible situation happen at the Titanic shipwreck. There was an exploration, I believe, by a submersible company called Ocean's Gate, and that was the highlight of everyone's week last week. It was definitely a tragic and an unfortunate situation. So I definitely wanted to start off today's podcast. Um, definitely sending my prayers and condolences to the families of the five individuals who were aboard. Um, it definitely was a tragic situation. Um, sometimes, life just kind of deals you some cards and things just kind of go the way that it's, going to go. We always can say what we would have done, but you just never know in that type of situation. A lot of people look at, okay, here's some billionaire, and he has his toys, and he has this company charging $250,000 to take a trip to see the Titanic wreckage, um, and then you know how the submersible vessel was created, and some of the tactics and equipment and materials used to create this thing, seem to be a bit sketchy. However, we do have to understand that, hey, there's 8 billion people in this world, and, you know, there's a great percentage of people who enjoy, just explorations, who are adventurous, who like to kind of do things and live their lives on the edge. So, there's people out there who's into those type of things. So we can't necessarily fault them for that. Um, but again, this was an unregulated uh, submersible, and unfortunately, you know, apparently or allegedly, didn't pass some of the safety qualifications that it should have passed prior to making the trip. But it seems as though they did have successful trips that happened in the past. This wasn't like the first time they've ever went 12,000 feet underwater. But like I said, tragically, this thing happened. So send my prayers out to those individuals. It's like I said, it was definitely a big conversation within the last week, and it's just always unfortunate when these type of things happen. But today, I definitely wanted to dive into a little bit in regards to the Chicago incident that happened. Um, where a mother and her 14-year-old son was involved in the shooting death of a 30-year-old or 30 plus year old man named Jeremy Brown. The mother name was Carlishia Hood. I think because her son is 14, they have not released the son's name. However, for those who, again, who lives under a rock, who maybe just don't pay attention to social media or the news itself, just to give you a bit of background, as I always do, on the evening of June 18th, um, basically, Carlishia and her son arrived at a hot dog stand on Maxwell Street Express, which is located on Chicago's South Side. And they arrived in, I guess, a Lincoln Nautilus. That was the vehicle that they arrived in. According to court documents and the news, Miss Hood entered the business to get some food while her son waited in the car. Shortly after, Brown entered the restaurant, which was the gentleman, and an argument broke out between the two. Um, as some may have seen, there was video footage from a cell phone that was posted on social media, and it went viral, where you could see Mr. Brown, arguing and yelling um, at Carlicia over a food order. I don't know the extent or the circumstances of what their argument was about. Maybe somebody got their food before the other, and they may have been just waiting there for a while. But next thing you know, in the midst of him yelling, he threatened to knock her out, and then he does that. He actually punches her in the face and the head multiple times. Um, Multiple times. So at that point, I guess during the conversation, the mother was texting her son while he was sitting in the vehicle, let him know, hey, you need to come inside the restaurant. So her son came to the restaurant, came inside through the door, and once, I guess, seeing that his mother had, was being brutally beat up, he pulled out a gun and he shot the man. And yeah, he shot the man. And the mother and son, they followed him, and she told the teen to continue shooting. And Mr. Brown died at the scene. So she was, well, both of them um, had got arrested, and they were being charged with murder, and they were being held on a $3 million bail at Cook County Jail. But like I said, this particular story went viral. There was a lot of people who felt as though um, the son was not in the wrong, the mother was not in the wrong. This man, they acted in pure self-defense. And so the charges were dropped and they were let out of jail. And that happened on Monday. Prosecutors dismissed the charges against them. They stated that the state of Illinois was unable to, quote unquote, meet our burden of proof in the prosecution. Ms. Hood, with her attorneys, uh, did speak at a press conference. Um, and apparently is filing a lawsuit against the city of Chicago and 5 police officers alleging false arrest, malicious prosecution, and emotional distress. She was quote unquote stated, I've experienced pain in many ways that I would never have thought. What happened to me was totally unnecessary. Never in a million years would I have imagined being brutally attacked, beaten, and then being arrested. Prosecutors did confirm that Carlishia had a valid firearm identification card, and a concealed to carry permit. Apparently, she is being represented by attorney Brandon Brown. And in the press conference, she just said that on June 18th of this year, my life changed. My son's life changed. And it seems as though they're going to be having a hearing on the lawsuit against the city of Chicago on August 31st. So, considering the location of the incident, the south side of Chicago, of course, we hear of many unfortunate shooting incidents that happen on a daily basis there. But again, despite the community itself and the negativity that surrounds it, we have to understand that, hey, there are legitimate, um, hardworking, mindful parents who live in that area, as well as their own kids who, don't really live the street life. There's good kids, that live in that area. So we can't always, I guess, judge a book by the community that community that these individuals live in. From hearing her in the press conference, you can tell that she is, just kind of like a hardworking black woman, that's just trying to do right, I guess, in her life and for her son as well. And I guess from my own opinion, I feel as though she was very sincere about what happened to her. It's like, I'm just going in to this restaurant, ordering some food, and then we have this black man in his 30s who should definitely understand right from wrong, and who should be able to control his emotions, um, get into this argument with me about food, and then it goes to the point of being escalated to where he feels as though he can lay his hands on me, a complete stranger. Now, that goes into, there's so many different conversations that we can have, uh, that we can pull out from this particular incident. You know, it's like, black man, what's going on? Like, as much as we want black men to be positive, and mind you, when I'm saying this, I'm not talking about each and every black man in the world, right? I'm just saying black men, we every day we kind of preaching about, hey, there's already lack of fathers in our households. We need to have more black male role models, for these kids, for the youth, and him for this particular guy to act the way that he acted, not only towards this black female, but also in front of other black individuals as well as a child, a 14-year-old. Like what type of representation of the black male that you're trying to give off? Like are those thoughts not going through someone's head when they, when they're in a particular in a predicament to where, you know, emotions are running high? Like are we not just taking a second, a millisecond to just think about things that could happen or consequences by the things that I'm saying out of my mouth? Like was these things not going through this man's head? Apparently not, because he felt the need to attack this woman. But that there lies the bigger problem. Like what's really going on mentally with our black men? That's a serious, serious question, and I may be having this conversation. Side note, I may have this conversation, may do a live on my YouTube channel to talk further about this. But and if that does happen, it may happen today or tomorrow, just to let you listeners know. But why are we as people not taking a second to think about these things, right? It's a shame. And then to do it in front of a 14-year-old, and then this 14-year-old see this is happening to his own mama. Like, what did you expect? Like, what did you expect to happen? Even, say for instance, they didn't even have a gun. You know what I'm saying? Like the 14-year-old could have attacked that man in any type of way. Could have hit him upside the head with a brick, stabbed him, jumped on him, just punched on him. If I don't know if the 14-year-old knows how to fight or protect himself or not, but anything. The boy, I would think, was going to retaliate no matter what, because hey, you are sitting here abusing my mother. And I just feel like this was just definitely a unfortunate situation. And I know that that young man, the 14-year-old, is probably going to be suffering from some type of trauma from this incident for the rest of his life. Like, I actually had to defend my mom and I killed a man in the process. Now, do I um, empathize or share a bit of sensitivity to the victims? Well, to Mr. Brown's family, because he apparently was a father. He had some kids as well, and his family themselves are grieving. Yes, I do. Like I said, it was just definitely an unfortunate situation all across the board. But what in his right mind, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to always keep going to this, is what in his what was he thinking? Why do he feel or felt as if he had the right to raise his hand and touch a complete stranger and punched her multiple times? What made him feel as though he could do that? That was dead ass wrong. That was dead ass wrong. Now for this lawsuit, um, is it, maybe justified for the situation? Yeah, I mean, I can understand her suing, emotional distress. She was like, hey, I'm defending myself. My son defended me. How the hell y'all gonna sit here and it's on video? Like, what gave y'all the right to arrest me and charge me with murder? Are you serious? So I'm glad that the community stood up and the situation went viral and the woman was able to get out. I don't know as far as like compensation goes, how much money they're looking for, possibly receiving. Um, Hopefully, if they do end up, being on top of this lawsuit and winning, um, the money that they are given goes toward the 14-year-old's college education at least. Let it be enough for that. That's the least they can do is send that young man to college. I see Nicki Minaj, Nicki Minaj as well. Definitely made a post stating that she would love to, help and donate some money to his college education. Also, so I commend Nicki Minaj for that. But I wonder how you guys feel about this situation. Do you feel as though, hey, you know, even though the mother was attacked, do you feel as though her and her son should still have to, be charged um, for the unfortunate death of Mr. Brown? I always like to see how y'all feel about that. I'm interested to know. Um, in other news, the BET Awards went on this weekend, but do we really give two fucks about the BET? I mean, no, let me not say that because this this is exactly what this particular year for the awards. It was a dedication to the 50 years of hip hop. And shout out and applause. Let me give you some applauses here. Shout out to hip hop. I remember when I fell in love with hip hop. Of course, it was in the 90s when I fell in love with, well, actually, maybe the late 80s when I fell in love with hip hop. Reminiscing here for a second, I believe the first hip hop single record I may have purchased or my mom may have purchased for me either had to be the Fat Boys or Curtis Blow, and I believe it was on an 8 track. CDs were not out at the time. um, Cassette tapes may have been out, but I don't think I had. Yeah, that was purchased on a cassette tape. Yeah, it may have been a little 8 track thing, or even one of those. What do they call those? Not the huge vinyl records, but those little smaller records. Shoot, I forgot what they was called. But yeah, those that was the first I believe hip hop song that was purchased and I listened to it and ever since then I was in love with hip hop. Everybody that knows me understands that hip hop is my favorite genre of music and my all-time favorite hip hop artist is Tupac Shakur. And yeah, so shout out to them. I'm glad that the BET Awards brought out a lot of old heads. I didn't see the full award show, just bits and pieces. Busta Rhymes received a Lifetime Achievement Award, which was well deserved. He's been around for quite some time, and I enjoyed the speech. Of course, he stated he needed more than 2 minutes, so they did allow him to keep speaking. But I enjoyed his speech because he just, kind of talked about how, as some of the pioneers and older heads, it's okay to embrace, the young kids that's coming up in the game. So I really like that message that he put out there, and he also kind of stated that hey, we need to stop all of the petty beefs that go on in rap music, like between rappers and their cliques and entourages, and it's like, come on now, we all need to stop this. It doesn't do anything, to the genre itself, but kind of deter us from continuing to be great. You know what I mean? And continuing with the legacy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want hip hop to be around for another 50 years, 100 years, But if we always have these riffs and going back and forth and dissing each other and, on rap records and all of that, it's like, come on now, that leads to our downfall. So I'm glad that he took the time to preach on that. Yeah, everybody, I enjoyed also the Migos with Takeoff. I mean, rest in peace to Takeoff. But Quavo and Offset did a tribute to him. Everybody was surprised that they performed together, but it was good to see that they united for the sake of Takeoff's memory. So hopefully these guys can iron out their differences, figure out what it is, and be able to move on as a unit. I believe they will be more successful if they continued on as a unit, than they would if they, were on their own separately, doing their own separate thing. Um, of course, the females represented. Many people were talking about the red carpet fashions. I tell you, the red carpet fashions was a hot mess. It was just kind of like, oh my God, like, really? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the fashions. Like, it just wasn't hitting at all. Like, nobody really looked up to par. It's like, this is of course you were celebrating hip hop, but damn, do we have to just look like we just got up out of bed? I don't know. It just seemed like something was off when it came to the fashions. We just looked cheap. Everybody just looked cheap to me. And, I don't really appreciate that. Even if you are a hip hop artist and, you want to still come with a certain level of individuality and creativity with your outfits, that's okay to do that. But just come look the part on. Just everybody just look the materials just was not hitting for the BET Awards, and I'm sorry, that's just my opinion, and I don't care who likes it or not. But outside of that, um, trying to see what else was going on in this past week. Like I said, I may have a separate live that I will do on the YouTube channel. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't follow or is subscribed to the channel, it's STR the number 8 FWD with Ms.B on YouTube. So definitely subscribe to the channel. Check me out. And turn on the notification bell so that when we go live, you will be, you know, able to check us out and maybe get into the chat room and chat with us about this, because I definitely want to continue this conversation in regards to just, the mental capacities of black men and where has it gone. And I just don't want to point out men. I mean, females go through things as well. And it's really just not, it's not a black thing. People of all races it just seems like the past few years, maybe since the pandemic, people have really been losing their minds. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Is it maybe a substance addiction that helped fuel it? Is it the pandemic where the world just kind of stopped and people probably just didn't know how to adjust to that and having to sit in the house and, you know, like what has happened in the last few years, where it's just seem like people are going crazy, man, and I don't get it. But hopefully we can discuss that more on the live. Anyway, oh, also I forgot in regards to the BET Awards, we forgot to talk about the JT and Lil Uzi thing. So maybe there's something else that we could talk about too on the live, but I'll see. But I definitely appreciate everybody from tuning in today to this episode 58 of Straightforward with Ms.B. Thank you all for your continued support and your listenership, if that's such a word. Again, we're on all social media platforms, so follow us and definitely follow us on the podcast streaming, Spotify, Amazon Music, which we were featured on the feature page, as well as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff. Definitely follow us and check us out, okay? And until next time, peace out.